welcome back to eBEFOREi Video Reviews. That's right, here with the 30th anniversary edition of Voltron. That's right, this is the Lion Voltron set. 30th anniversary, right alongside Transformers. Is this any good? This is by Toynami. We've seen a very similar release for the 25th anniversary. That was Voltron's Masterpiece series. So the question is this any different? Is it worth your hard-earned money? And is this something that you should have on your shelf? Well, we'll take a look at all that and more here. Let's take a quick look at what you get with this set. Starting with the box. It's a very cool retro box. Zoom in the camera out so you can get a better look at it. It's got a very, straight out of the anime look, the cartoon of Voltron. Looks wonderful. Great artwork there. Ages 15 and up. Here's the side of the box, so black, red, green, blue, and yellow. You know what you're getting here. On the top, you've got a pretty neat shot of the shield. On the other side, the 30th anniversary collector set featuring light-up eyes, interactive light-up weapons display base, fully transformable lions unite to create Voltron, defender of the universe. But you already knew that. You also get the instruction manual, and this is kind of cool. I mean, there's some pretty nice artwork on the inside. You got a story, or the story of Voltron, and on the other side, a bio of the pilots. Keith, Lance, Pidge, Hunk, and Princess Allura. And further on, you got the package contents, and, it's fine. It's artwork of what you get. And then as you continue to move through the booklet, you actually start to see the transformation sequence of the figure. Alright, so here you get a good look at the collector's stand that comes with it, and it fits the Voltron key and all of the weapons. Let's take a closer look at this. So you can see all the way around it, the weapons just sort of sit inside. There's no magnets, no pegs, anything like that. They just fit inside. So you put it there, and the gravity holds it down, and it stays in there pretty firm, unless you shake it violently. But yeah, nothing's going to fall out while it's sitting in your stand. They go all the way around the base, and you've got a weapon for each of the lions, and then follow it back around to the front. Let's get the shield off and take a look at some of the detail on there. It looks really good. I mean, you can see that, it's real shiny. You can see, hello, see my reflection. The gold paint, and overall it just looks just so nice and new. Quality of the plastic looks okay, but you can see real reflective. There's a peg in the back so the lion can hold it in his mouth, and so there you go with that. Now the blazing sword isn't so much blazing, but it is. It definitely looks like the blazing sword. Not bad, kind of flimsy. It's just, it's not a real thick plastic, but all in all, it's fine for what it is. Now, the power key. It's kind of a cool thing right here. So it's got a clip on it if you're, you just want to wear it around the house, go to a Voltron convention, or, just your basement watching TV. Whatever you want to do, you can clip this to yourself. It's cool. Now, this actually does come off, so you can take the clip off and get some functionality out of the pilot's key. And to do that, you just come around to this side, I believe. Yep, that's going to be it, right? Yeah, that's it. So we're just going to pull this apart and take this off. And you've basically got the key ready to be inserted. So we're going to stick it right into the base. Now you do have to insert your own AA batteries, but you slide this over into the base itself, and then you push the key into the base, give it a good push, and listen. Do you hear that? Now I've dimmed my lights, so watch when I push it in what happens on the top. Look at this right here. Very neat. And if you let it sit here long enough, you don't actually have to do anything else, but if you just sit here, you'll hear the lion roar. Or listening through these headphones, it almost sounds a bit like a toilet flush. One or the other. So we're going to pull the key out and just open it back up, pop the thing out, and there you go. All right, so let's take a look at the lions themselves, and this is obviously the black lion. I don't have the 25th anniversary edition, but I don't see a lot of difference between what I'm seeing here. I mean, you got the same legs, which is real kind of skinny up front and wide in the back. So it looks very similar. I can't say it's exactly the same, but definitely the same mold. If you take a look at some of the detail up close, it kind of sort of bothers me that I see Voltron's head even when the lion has his mouth closed. You still see it. You can try to push it back up, but you still get all that blue in there. So not a big fan of that. You get nice head articulation, so you've got the dual joints in the neck and you can turn it side to side. Looking at more detail of the figure up close, the figure has some real nice paint applications, just the way the gold and the black pop against each other. On the top, not much to see. The number 1 looks good. That paint looks real nice. Exposed screw in the neck. The 2 wings, they're real thin for my taste, but they do fit back there okay. Here's a close-up of the face. Looks good. Again, the paint on this figure is really, really nice. So the gold eyes, the white around the mouth, the red on the nose. You still got this issue with the face, though. I mean, maybe it's a defect in mine, but I just can't get it up any more than that. That's what she said. No, she didn't. But that's really all. Anyway, on the underbelly, the crest looks nice. You got a bit of a gap right there. That's where the head folds down into. But overall, the black lion looks okay. Nice silver paint in there. It feels hefty. You have some swivel right there, which ultimately gives you a little bit of waist swivel in robot mode. In fact, if I've got any complaints, it's that these joints don't feel good. I mean, they're not equal to one another. This leg right here is fairly stiff in the joint. You can see that you've got some foot articulation. The front, these are real loose. You got some stiffness there. The paw's fairly stiff. I can see that wearing out over time. And you got a lot of gaps right there in the hip. So let's go ahead and get him transformed and get ready to form Voltron. So all you need to do is you extend these legs down like that, come around to the back, take the tail, and you're just going to lift it up. I wish they'd found a way to do something with that tail. You know, right now it stays in place pretty well. Is it going to a couple years down the line? It's hard to say. You come around here to the front, and you're just going to rotate this all the way around. You're going to lift this panel right here. Take the front of the paw. You're going to point it and push it down into the mechanism. Collapse it so it's hidden. And then you push this in, and you'll hear a nice snap when you've got it done correctly. Rinse and repeat on the other side. Just pull the tab up, point the paw forward, tuck it into itself. Very reminiscent of the original toy. Collapse it down, collapse the piece in till it snaps, and you're pretty much ready to go. You just take the little piece of plastic right there. You want to open up the 2 back pieces here and just bring them off to the side like that. We'll hold off on forming the head for now. We'll do that in just a little bit. Now let's take a look at some of the other lions. All right, so the mighty small red lion. Again, I say small. He's in line with the size that he was in the original toy back in the 80s. You do see the nice addition, and again, this was also replicated on the 25th edition, but you've got a lot of articulation in there, and so you can also move the head up and down and all around. Mouth opens up on a hinge. The paint, again, looks great. It's really hard to ask for a better paint job in the face. The teeth are painted silver. Got the peg up underneath the jaw for weapon. Black nose, gold in the eyes. Just very, very nice paint all around. Nice in metal molding. You see that bit right there, and this in the back is all die cast, as is the joint. And I should have mentioned on the lion, black lion, it was in the middle as well. Now, the legs bother me a lot, and I don't understand why they're so loose and flimsy. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's almost, I mean, you can kind of fix it, but it's just so loose, and I don't understand why that wouldn't be a stiff joint. I just don't. It just makes the figure feel a little bit cheaper than it should be. I also have uneven consistency in the back legs here. One of them is a lot stiffer than the other. But you do have a wide range of elbow joint articulation and at the paw. You know, I mean, it's, again, I really think the selling point here is the paint application. Here you see the number 2, the yellow bits on top, along with the silver. Up against the red really looks good. Now there's the reverse underneath. Not a whole lot to see. It's just a chunk of die cast with plastic all around it.
You're watching it? Why?
So that's pretty much the red lion. To transform him into his arm mode. Oh, I should mention that this little piece right here is rubber. So that's good. It's, you know, as it rests against the die-cast body, it's not going to scrape anything or scrape the paint. Anyway, you just push the tail in. It goes inside of the die-cast. The leg, you're just going to collapse. It's a real stiff joint on this one. And push that in like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Just collapse it in. Push it up against. That one was a lot easier than the other one. And there's the inside look at that as well. We'll go ahead and collapse this back in. We're going to do basically the same thing on the other side. And man, you know, the die cast is nice, but those plastic legs are just so flimsy. So flimsy. Alright, so you basically formed your guy here. The only thing you need to do now is expose the joint. And I'm not a fan of the joint on these. Now on the original, let's turn these around by the way. And this is a nice feature because you can actually have proper elbow articulation without giving him curling arms. But here's the arm joint. You take this bit and you pull it out. And that's it. I mean, that's your joint. That's what's going to hold the arm to the mighty Voltron. Not great, in my opinion. Before we take a look at the green line. Oh, and it used to connect, by the way, with the tail. And that's not the case here. These tails are obviously much more flimsy. All right, so getting back at the green line itself. The paint, again, wonderful. Gold eyes, silver teeth, peg up underneath the jaw for weapons, black nose. The green, you've got the nice neck swivel, and silver inside right beneath the neck, which is a nice touch. Again, you've got the same joint. We're not really going to get into much of the articulation. Same problem with the legs. So I know that it wasn't just a defective figure on the one. And it's really a shame. I just wish they were more stiff and straight. But all in all, the green on this lion is great. And the paint application, the paint that they've painted the die-cast bit, it's got the same kind of fleck, metallic paint that you'd find on a car or a boat or a carnival ride. It's just awesome. Anyway, so that's the green lion. We'll skip the transformation since it's identical to the red lion, and I'll do that off camera. Let's go ahead and get to the blue lion. The Lion of a Princess. It's a number 3 lion. Okay. You know, the foot kind of sticks up because it's loose, but you do have some nice articulation in the neck. Kind of an odd shape, though. You got this kind of bulbous round, and I get it because for leg mode, you need to kind of have that big pivot. But overall, oh, and by the way, that doesn't come up. It did in the original toy, not here. There are no extras. This doesn't pop up. It's just not going to happen. It's not made to do that. The shape is kind of odd. But yeah, it doesn't have the functionality that the original die-cast toy had in the 80s, which I happen to have one. I've got my original blue lion. This is an original piece right here. If I can grab it. All right, so this is the original blue lion, and you know, I like the overall look, I think, better of the original toy. It's a bit more squat, and sure, there's less articulation, but it just looks tougher. You know, I just, personal preference, but you've got kind of the odd shape of the new toy, and the more of the sleek, flat shape of the original. So, kind of odd. Love the fact that the connector flap is blue on the new toy. That's a good thing, as opposed to being yellow. Other than that, the tail's transformed different. Everything else is basically the same, except you lose the functionality of some of the pop-up where the weapons would come out, missile launchers and such. You just don't get that on the new toy. I know I keep talking about the paint, but it's wonderful. I mean, that metallic blue looks wonderful. Just under these lights especially, it looks great. Again, you've got the kind of yellowish gold eyes, the control panel on top, the black nose, painted teeth. You don't have the weapon deal in front because it's not needed on top of the roof. Love that they've got a little plastic engine bit underneath the belly, and that's plastic, not die cast. The rest of the body is, so it's got some nice weight to it. Love that silver bit paint application there too. Transformation is very simple and similar. Man, this leg is really stiff. But same kind of problem. These legs are flimsy. The joints are stiff. I just don't know how well this is going to hold up over time. But yeah, you just kind of push them flat like that. We're going to push the head completely up. I kind of got that off camera. So we're completely up like that. And then you're going to take this front leg and bring it up to an angle, and you want to have it so that the paw lays flat. Do the same thing on the other side. And tuck the tail in, just push it, and you've got your leg formed. Let's take a look at the yellow lion. Bet you think I'm going to talk about the paint. I am. It's great again. Same engine bit on the bottom. The silver, you've got red contrast, black. Things on the bottom they didn't need to do, and it looks great. But the silver, red, and yellow, there you see the number 5, it really looks wonderful. Same head articulation, silver teeth, blue eyes, black nose, just looks wonderful. No opening flaps. The original toy had the opening flaps. That missile pod would go up and rotate, and you do not get that here. Again, it's weighty, it feels good. We'll skip the transformation since it's the same as blue, and let's form Voltron. Form feet. No, I'm not going to do that. So you just take the lion, you push him down in, you get a little snap. And look at the weight of this thing. It just kills those hip joints. It stands fine, so I'm not going to take that necessarily away from the figure. It definitely feels weak as you connect these bits up and you're holding it up in the air. But you're not really going to hold your toy up in the air like that. So as is, he stands just fine. So we'll take the red lion and push him into his joint. Again, I really hate these joints. You can push it in a little bit. You can push it in real far. You can kind of do what you want here. If you want to get a little bit more movement, you can leave it out like that. I'm going to push it in a bit further in a bit. Let's go ahead and get the green line connected here. Here comes Greeny Meanie. Just stick him right in. I'll give you a better view of what that joint looks like on the inside. It's really just a square hole is what you're dealing with. And you take the leg joint and you pop it in, and it doesn't snap. It doesn't give you a satisfying pop. It's kind of a mushy feel when you do it. And so you question whether or not you've got it in all the way or not. And you kind of give it a good push. Now you can put it in further, and I recommend that you do, because if you don't, you can certainly leave it this way. You can move the arms, they stay in place, but I did have one fall out on me, so we'll push it in. All right, let's form the head. The head is one of the best things on this figure and the worst. We'll get into that. But you open those bits, mouth opens, you get a head reveal, and you're going to have a hard time seeing this on my lights, so I'll dim them here in a minute. But you've got light up glowing eyes here, battery operated. These batteries are included. And there you formed the head of Voltron, and you're ready to stand up your figure, pose up your figure, and here is the mighty Voltron, defender of the universe. So we'll take a closer look. You see, one thing I love about this figure is the leg head pivot. It really looks good. There are some problems with this mold, and we'll take a look at those here in detail. The chief problem, for me anyway, is the eyes. So I'm going to dim my lights here in a second so you see what we get. My room isn't nearly as dark as the camera makes it look, and these eyes are awesome. Really, really looks good. The problem, this is an expensive toy. There's no on-off switch. The off switch is to lift the head back up and it cuts the circuit. When you have his face exposed, those eyes stay lit with absolutely no way to cut that off. other than to insert a plastic tab that you had to pull out back into the head of your expensive figure. I don't know about you, but at this price point, I shouldn't have to shove a piece of plastic junk into my figure to cut the circuitry so that I don't kill the batteries on this. As is, that's all you can do outside of taking a screwdriver to the back of the head and actually taking it off, or posing them like this. You certainly could. If it sounds like I'm going off on a rant here, I'm pretty ticked that there's no way to cut the power on this thing. How can you leave something like this out? Well, they did. So you can see the connector points down there, and yeah, the nice neck articulation. That's really my main gripe. Again, these joints, you can push that in to make it real tight. You got waist articulation. See, that's what happens if you don't push it in. So let's go ahead and stick this in even further. Just gonna give it a good push. We'll do the same thing on the other side, and it really does kind of tighten up the look. So it is supposed to be tighter, and it doesn't mess with the articulation too much. You know, my constant fear is anytime I see a small plastic tab, I think I'm gonna break it. So, you know, outside of that, you can see the kind of ratchety joint. The original toy had that as well. You can get some decent posing out of this. Man, am I just fearful of that tiny piece of plastic, though. The heads on the arms do not launch. I didn't mention that before, but they don't. Not a big fan of the leg tails that stick up there. But again, what are you going to do? Trying to pose this guy up is a bit of a challenge because he's so heavy. His legs are heavy, the arms are pulling up against that top, and it really limits what you can do posability-wise. Let's get into articulation for a minute. The head goes up, down, and all around. Again, you've got the dual joints there in the center of the elbow. Head rotates on the arm, mouth opens for weapons or just to growl at you. Waist articulation, you got a bit of a swivel. The tail hinders it a little bit, but even if you pull the tail down, you still don't get a full turn. Or if you do, I'm not going to do it because it feels like it's going to snap. You've got some pivot there for the legs, but the plastic gets in the way of you taking it too far. And look how skinny that joint is. So there's only so much that you're going to want to rotate that around. You've got some knee articulation, but that's as far as it goes. So you can see that there are some problems. This isn't the figure that you're going to get any dynamic action pose in. You can get a few poses, but nothing too crazy. Quick look at the weapons. There are no pegs on most of these weapons. They just fit snugly inside of the mouth. So in order to do this, we'll take the green lion, open his mouth up, and we'll take this weapon, stick it inside, clamp the teeth down, and that's it. Fits just fine. Put the blue lion's weapon in the blue lion's mouth. And again, just stick it in there and clamp the teeth down. You got a nice fit. So again, each of the lions carry their weapons. Most of them do not have pegs, except for the Master Sword, or the Blazing Sword, and the shield. Now, the Blazing Sword is heavy compared to the figure, so you might have some issues. You can see the head can't quite support it that way. It can the other way. So it fits pretty well. But again, you know, you might get some interesting poses from a few different angles, but there's really only going to be so much you can do before the weight of the figure starts to collapse in on itself. Bit hard to tell from this angle, but he wants to lean forward when you have sword and shield in hand, just because it puts too much weight on the figure. And I don't think the joints here were designed that well. It's about as much as I can do, pose-wise. You know, so you can get some posing out of them, but the real strength in this figure, to me, lies in just it looks like Voltron. It's not a real playable toy, so I wouldn't give this to small kids. That 15 up is probably about right, because you go any smaller, you're going to have broken pieces all over the place. So final thoughts. What do I think about this Toynami 30th anniversary figure? If you already have a classic original Voltron that's in good condition, there's no need to rush an update. If you have the 25th anniversary, no need to rush an update. If you just want the light up eyes, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but you will be frustrated that there's no way to turn those eyes off. unless you plan on burning the battery out or keeping the head in his lion mode. Paint applications on this toy are wonderful. The plastic that's used on the figure for the legs is cheap, thin, not very durable. The paint, I think, will easily come off, that chrome-plated paint. So there are definite pluses and minuses for this figure. Is it worth it if you want to have a Lion Voltron figure in your collection? I think that it is, but just beware that some of these issues for the toy are here to stay, and I don't think we're going to get a new updated version from Toynami anytime soon, considering this was the brand new 30th release. The base and stand is cool. The figure itself looks good. So if you have to have a Voltron, you're willing to spend a little bit of money to have this in your collection, by all means, go ahead. I certainly think this will look good here in mine. Anyway, thanks again for watching eBEFOREi Video Reviews. You can follow me in all kinds of places. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/eBEFOREiNet. My Facebook page, if you want to Facebook me, is facebook.com/eBEFOREi. And I'm also on Twitter. I'm at eBEFOREiNet. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you again back here real soon with some other Voltron goodies in the very near future. And a whole bunch of Transformers. And more Transformers. And gold, money. Direct to you. Oh, that last part was a lie. See ya.